So this is just a brief follow-up to the video I did a couple days ago about the work that the contractor had done to start building the fence for me. And I had mentioned in there how it had, I was unsatisfied with it for a number of reasons. But the bottom line was that every fence starts with setting the post. You lay it out. And so I wanted the post 3 feet deep, as I explained in the previous video. The contractor said, no, 2 feet's fine. That's what I do. I do 2 feet, blah, blah, blah. And then followed up that by pouring dry cement down the hole. And I know dry pour is a recognized method. A lot of people use it, swear by it. I don't like it, never have. But nonetheless, he assured me that this is how he does it, and his fences stand the test of time. He's been in the business for 5 whole years, done a couple of hundred fences according to him. And so this always works. It's how it works, and his fences are still standing, and so on. So in the previous video, I showed you how short the posts were. So first of all, he didn't even set the post according to his own standards, much less mine. Not even 24 inches deep. So the deepest one was 20, and the rest of them were less than that. And so he and I had talked to him and told him I wanted to know what it would cost to do the fence my way. It's 3 foot deep, or at a very minimum, 3 foot hole with 6 inches of gravel, a 30-inch post in it. I would have been okay with that. And I want the cement wet poured. I want it properly mixed according to the instructions on the bag, and then set the post in that manner. I said, so I need a cost. Tell me what extra I need to pay to get the fence done the way I want it done. And then failing that, or if you don't want to do that, what amount would it cost me? What would I be charged to terminate this contract and to just stop this altogether? So he left and kind of in a huff. He was upset. But that evening, I think it was that evening, he sent me a note, text, saying that he didn't think we would be able to continue, and that my buyout on the contract would be several $100s. Well, I was unhappy with that to start with, because number one, I didn't ask to terminate it. I asked what it would cost. I just wanted a number. What would it cost me to terminate? And so we made arrangements to get together the next afternoon, and then that was yesterday. And then in the morning, he called me or sent me a text earlier, say he'd be there sooner. So that was great. So he shows up. And meanwhile, I got the contract, and I'm looking at it while he was loading his equipment, getting it back on the trailer. And reading through the contract, I discover that there is not a penalty for early termination. The terms of the termination are these: that either party can terminate the contract with a 3-day written notice, and the contractor has the further advantage that he can terminate at any time at will. He doesn't require any notice. He can just terminate whenever he chooses. And so he finished loading his equipment, and we got to talk. He came up, we talked, and I said, well, first of all, I didn't terminate this. I didn't ask for termination. I had preferred and wanted the cost to do it my way, to build the fence in my manner, the way I want it built. And he said, well, we can't work together. A trust has been violated. I could say, no, duh. Of course a trust has been violated. If I had just turned my back and walked away, and he had built this fence and I never watched any of it happen, I would have had probably one of the worst pieces of fence work I think I have ever seen in my life. Not one of those posts even met his own standard, much less mine. So he didn't meet his own standard, and then he's acting like he's some injured party because I didn't like his work. So he terminated. And then I told him, I said, well, I'm not going to make payment, because first of all, the contract doesn't require any payment from me for termination. And so there's no reason for me to give extra money for the work that I've got to already have to undo. I've got to go pull every single one of those posts out of the ground and start it all over again. And beyond that, he said, not only is the trust broken, there's no longer any trust there, but his feelings are hurt. Well, I get it kind of, but those are not generally things men discuss when we're talking about business. But he got his feelings hurt because I guess I did not appreciate the effort he went to and the work he had done and his expertise and skills and knowledge enough to trust him to go on and just throw up any old piece of junk fence he felt like putting up there. Evidence up front that I wanted quality work was when I didn't want to pay for lumber from Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace where you've got to dig through many pieces of lumber to find a few good ones. And I went with Yellowwood brand. I paid extra. It cost a premium, but I paid extra to get quality materials. I expected quality work. So as I further look into the contract, a clause I noticed, and I mention this because it's important, I think, and I learned a lesson. It's important to read every word of the contract. Some of it's going to be the standard all legalese, confidentiality, and so on like that. But every once in a while, you find something in there that kind of gets your attention. A clause in this contract says the recipient has no right or power to control or otherwise interfere with the contractor's mode of effecting performance under this agreement. The recipient's only concern is the result of the contractor's work and not the means of accomplishing it. Well, had it gone full term, the result of the work would have been horrible, but it wouldn't have been immediately evident because I would have had a new fence standing there looking pretty for a few days, probably at least. But having observed it, I really felt like I had no choice. I mean, there's no way I'm going to let a guy come in and halfway do a job of this poor workmanship, terrible practices, and then further says that except in extraordinary circumstances and when necessary, the contractor shall perform the services without direct supervision by the recipient. Obviously, it was necessary that I stop this where it was and take some kind of corrective action. Absolutely essential. You can't set a fence with you got a post 16 inches in the ground. You pour a little bit of dry cement around it, splash the top of it with water, and call it done. And so he left. He was hurt, and he the whole violation of trust, which he violated my trust when he couldn't even follow and live up to his own standards. So I had to go out there. I went out this morning and I pulled those posts. So I'm older. I'm not as strong as I once was. Don't have the guns anymore for any of this. But I was able, obviously, to go out there and I shake these posts. I worked them back and forth and left and right and back and forth and left and right. And out of the 7, I think, posts that were standing there, I was able to pull 2 of them out of the ground by hand, by myself, without any extra assistance, without any mechanical devices. I pulled 2 of them, and they came out clean. I mean, a little dirt on the bottom of it, but they came out clean. There was no cement clinging to it from the little splash of water that could have caused it to harden up some. Then the others, the other posts remaining, I wobbled them loose, and it felt like I could get them out, but they weren't coming. So I put a couple of screws through a block several inches above the base of the post, and then I got a jack stand out there close to it, and put a 4x4 under that block and levered it up, and the post just popped right out. I mean, it wasn't difficult. It's not like I had to jump up and down on the long end of the lever. It just popped right out, almost with nothing much more than the weight of the 4x4 that I was using as a lever. And every single one of them come out clean. Oh, there was a little gray dust on it from the cement. 1 or 2 of them had a little moisture on them because it had rained just a little bit the night before, not much. But there was no cement was set. I could hear sometimes when I shook the post a little crunching, like there was just this light crust of cement maybe in the top of the hole or the top of whatever the level of the cement was in there. But that was it. The last one had a chunk of cement around it. It actually had enough water put in it to cause the cement to set some way down it. So this post had about 18 inches in the ground. It had 10 or 11 inches chunk of cement, and then it had several inches of just bare post below that cement. So it didn't even, I mean, the hole didn't even have cement in the bottom of it. And how it hung up there like it did, I don't know. But nonetheless, and not only did it have this chunk of cement around it that had set up some, I mean, you'll know in a minute what I mean by some, it was shaped kind of cone shaped, with it large at the top and smaller at the bottom, which is the opposite shape you would want a hole to be. I mean, if you don't have your hole, if you're going to put a hole straight up and down, a square hole all the way down, that's fine. I get it. But if you want to shape it a little bit, most guys would dig out the bottom of the hole and enlarge the bottom just a little bit, so that when you put that cement in there and it hardened up, it would be even more difficult for that post to come out. And so I got a hammer and a cold chisel and went out there with just a couple of, not much more than a tap. I didn't have to swing that thing with all my might, just a little bit of a tap. Now, I understand this was 48 hours later. Well, not quite 48, maybe 40 hours later. So it hadn't had time, a long time to cure. But there wasn't enough water in any of the others to make the cement even start to set up. Oh, that one evidently got an extra dose, a little bit of extra water, so it did set up some. And over time, I know if there's cement in the ground, over time, the theory is that the water will seep through the ground, it will infiltrate the cement, and it will solidify, and it will get harder and harder as time goes on. But part of the problem with that argument is, while you're building the fence, you're wobbling the post around. I mean, it can't be helped. You're out there with your nail guns, you're laying up your rails, you're putting your pickets on it, and you won't be moving it much, I don't suppose, but it's still is some small amount of movement, vibration in that post, which is going to separate it from the cement that's around it. In any case, I got those out without much difficulty at all. That one that had a little bit of cement on it, I knocked it off with no trouble at all. Took the small piece of a 2x4 and just kind of used it to rub some of the dirt and powder off all four sides of the post, and put it back on the stack with the rest of the lumber to start all over again. So I guess my bottom line is that one of the reasons for doing this is to encourage people, and of course myself, I'm guilty now, to make sure you read every line of these contracts and don't agree to anything that you don't feel comfortable with. Had I read this or paid attention to what I read the first time through it, when I just kind of glanced through it quickly, scanned it more or less, if I had read this part about the contractor or the recipient, being me, having no right over or any control over the methods of the contractor, and my only concern being the result, I never would have accepted it. He'd have changed it, or I'd have just asked him to leave, and I'd have found another contractor that made a lot more sense than that. So I just wanted to follow up and kind of close the loop on this. I don't have an active YouTube channel. I have a channel, obviously, that's where this comes from, but I think the only other video, I think I might have two videos on my channel. One is when my daughter was 2 years old, her doing her makeup. It's really cute. You ought to see that. And then maybe one of my wife, she's Filipina, and maybe a video of her learning, doing some driving on her own and being kind of excited about that. Other than that is this video and that last one I just did. So I'm not out here looking for subscribers, I'm not begging for likes. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not an influencer. I'm not trying to build a channel and start a million person following. I'm just trying to be helpful to the community and let others know what I experienced, and to kind of give you a couple of tips on things to look out for with your contractors. And sometimes you working men that have contractors come to your house when you're gone. I did all this work for years by myself, and I would do it after work hours. I do it on weekends, but I've got to where a lot of it I can't do anymore. I'm just thankful that I was here to see it before he got to work putting them rails up, then cutting the tops of them posts off when I would have no idea what was in the ground. So unless you see it yourself, I'm not saying get out there and supervise and get in the contractor's way. By all means, don't do that. Let men who know what they're doing do their job. Let them go out there and do their work. They know that they're experienced. They know how to do it efficiently. They can give you good work. Just keep an eye out for for anything that might be just obviously wrong or poorly executed. With that, I'll leave you to it.